Hello to everyone, I am Cryfo and I am back from my small 1 month break. I have recently been observing development of this server called Fight Nova CEO for a few months and got interested in the way they are executing their server and the nut script base they are using for it. Please note that the opinions in this interview necessarily do not reflect the opinion of the entire community of where they are in. So welcome to interview, Griff and Slotty, how are you?
We're pretty good. It's going quite well. As you mentioned, we've been developing the server for quite some time, and yeah, we're thinking that it's going quite well.
Like I have noticed you have been developing it like a month or two, and that's very long time. Usually people just make their server in 1 week and then they just play. But why do you develop it for so long time?
So the reason we have for taking such care and time with our servers is we see this pattern that happens, and we've been a part of for quite some time in the Gmod community, and we realise that it's more. Have you ever heard the quote from Far Cry 3? The definition of insanity one, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting it to change. Well, we've seen that that's happened over and over again. The amount of times that we've seen clone servers, we've made servers of our own that are literally just following the same format, and we really want to do something different this time. So the reasons that it's taking so long to do so is because no one's really attempted something so different before that I'm aware of, apart from obviously the original time when they made this format. And we just thought, well, it's probably going to take quite a long time in order to kind of properly do it in a way that does it justice for all the ideas that we have. So it's got a lot of custom features, like we're planning on making an interactive galactic map that's even better than the ones from Galactic Conquest game mode in Battlefront 2, but yeah, we're just trying to take our time with it and do something completely different and try not to mess it up, because that's what I see a lot of servers doing.
Yeah, so there's something that attracts the attention in the server. So that's why I'm asking, what is this server Fight Nova CO about?
Well, the main focus that we like to put forward of the server is the Galactic Conquest mode that we use, along with all the other things like the NutScript base, all the custom, well, the different regiments that we have. We're going to have quite a lot of custom content like menus and derma menus and things. But the main thing that we like to push is our Galactic Conquest themed events. So the reason why we do it this way is because we think, well, but let me explain the Galactic Conquest first. So we're planning on having two servers. The first server is going to be the main one, which is going to be a lot closer to home. It's going to be a lot more similar to the current ones that are out there. Of course, there will be all the custom features and things, but the base concept is the same. You'll be on a Venator, and you'll do exciting kind of ship battle events. But then where it starts to get really interesting is where you take it off to the next server. So there are other communities that do it like this as well. So you've got Superior Servers, for example. They have an event server as well. But what we do with the event server is we take that and then we build on it. So not only is there a constant storyline through all of the events, which we are currently developing on the forums, but there's a nice kind of flow from one to the next. So we have a map on the forums, for example, where we'll have a list of all the different planets, and you can go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And we continue that throughout as if you would a Galactic Conquest. It's also possible to lose the events. So it heavily requires people to actually be invested in the gameplay and people to be invested in the combat in order to actually pull off the event, and it makes it feel like a much more inventive battle.
I have played on your previous server, and what stood out was that it had a red line that the events follow. Like there's a story behind them, then there's possibility that something might go wrong. It's not just like that one admin has an idea and then he executes it. It's like it must be according to the strategy that you have for all of the events, that it must go with. It just makes sense. That's why I found
Yeah.
the events extremely entertaining because they made sense. They were not just like droids attack the Venator and that's it. Like some random events.
Yeah.
Because it's not random. That's what I mean.
Yeah. One way that we actually like to plan our events, and this is how we not force, but definitely strongly encourage all of our event team to kind of carry out the events. Instead of doing what a lot of servers do, because I've been staff on quite a lot of servers before, starting to make all of my individual ones, like you said, Conquest Gaming. That was one of my previous ones. But before I did that, I realized that what the event managers actually did, instead of just planning what the enemies were supposed to do, like you would see in a regular battle, they actually planned what the Republic was supposed to do in response. So effectively, what you were doing is you were creating a completely useless rank for Fleet. Fleet don't actually command. All they do is they give out orders based on what the event's supposed to be like. What we want to do is create a more dynamic experience, which is more true to real life. Like, you're not going to have someone working two sides of the battle, deciding who wins and how they do it. You're gonna have challenges for both the fleet, the commanders, and the regular soldiers to face. So, we're actually going to have like a competent fleet team, which we're currently assembling at the moment, as they will need like more kind of more hands-on experience with strategy and things. So we're kind of trying to do it more like a real kind of battle per se.
Like like this is very intelligent design because I study basically management of like public government organizations, and like they usually do it like there's a strategy that like there's some leaders who keep goals but they don't keep orders, and there's lower leaders who like execute things, and that's what you mean with fleet, that they are like they keep goals and then the commanders are the executing like management, and then that's very good idea because it's like that's basically like how real organizations work actually.
Yeah, it's also like how the real army works, which is something that I'd like to just tie in. Shane, who unfortunately has to, he's not here at the moment because he had to go mid-interview, which is a bit annoying and awkward, but still, he's very into how the army works and how everything does it. So we're trying to kind of convey some of his personal opinions into the server. So instead of having just the generic trooper, private corporal kind of rank scheme, we change it up so it's a little bit more true to the British and American armies. We've made a bit of a mismatch, but instead of just having it so you've got your troopers who run in and they're basically cannon fodder, or if they're really good then they're elite units, and then you have your NCOs, which are like they can command a squad, and then your commissioned officers who can command a whole regiment. Instead of doing it like that, we're trying to push the commanders of each regiment, which we currently need, but when we do get more and more people to actually join as commanders, we're going to make it so each individual rank has a different role. I'm sure if he was here, he would tell you a lot more detail. How, like, I don't know, staff sergeants might be more, they would kind of relate to the troopers and they would report their findings back to the commissioned officers. But we want to really make it a more authentic military experience where each rank has a different role rather than just doing what that individual section of ranks do. So each NCO has a different job to the last.
Yeah, like I noticed that like immediately I noticed when I joined the server, like I became trooper, and then like there was some sergeant who had legit like legitimate authority to order people, unlike on some other servers where sergeants are like not worth anything, they just are like normal troopers. But on your server, sergeants actually have some authority and responsibility, and like that's what I liked, like because that's like how it works in military also. Even corporal has authority in military as well, and like it's also like that in your server. Like that's what I like about it. Like it makes sense. It's not just like that some people have ideas and then they execute. It's like that your whole server follows like a red line, like strategy for everything, and that's what I basically like about the ranks as well.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I've personally enjoyed like a lot. Creating the previous server Conquest Gaming, that was a good success in my idea. But the way that we're treating it now, because what happened to it was out of our control. I won't go into any details, but basically, at the end of the day, something happened with the server files. Things got corrupt, and instead of just saying let's do this over again, we'll get it out within a week. We thought we met someone. I won't mention his name because I don't have permission to, but he's a really nice guy. He's really good at modeling and everything, but that's beside the point. He really inspired us. He came in and he basically taught us all about how innovation is the only way to succeed. Because as I explained earlier, you've got the whole expecting everything to change. So we've kind of we've kind of tried to do as much change as we possibly can. So that's where the kind of changing everything to make a bit more sense kind of comes in. Like you've got the more military aspects of the server where you've got the NCOs actually having authority and the corporals even having authority. We've kind of done it on a basis where we really want to change as much as we possibly can after like critical analysis of what's currently out there.
Okay, so I noticed you use NotScript for base instead of DarkRP, and NotScript has some nice features, but it's very more difficult to code than DarkRP. So, do you think that like DarkRP might not be the way to host a server on in the future? For example, Stavas API, or do you think something else like NotScript is needed?
In my opinion, my personal opinion, which I'm not that great at coding myself, but I think it's the time has come for Dark RP to stick to the more simpler game modes that require a lot less maintenance. So Star Wars RP, in my opinion, has a layer of more complexity. So in Dark RP, for example, the actual game mode itself, you don't really have a set objective. You can just kind of it's like a sandbox game with different roles and different things. When you translate that over to a serious RP game mode, you get a lot of problems. That I know obviously it's more simple, but with that comes more simple features. I think personally, when you develop a Star Wars RP server, then it needs to be like a lot more complex. And I honestly, my personal opinion on everyone that I think people are taking the word developer a bit too lightly. In my eyes, developer is a someone who makes things for themselves from scratch. They make things like scripts, they make things like HUDs, they make things like menus. They do all this stuff to kind of build on what's basically there, which NotScript provides a much better base for. It allows for a lot more compatibility and a lot easier access to the kind of more sophisticated features. But at the same time, Dark RP, all it takes to make a job is take out like copy and paste, take out a couple of values, replace it with something else, and then you're done. You're instantly considered a developer. It's I wouldn't say Dark RP would ever really be completely phased out, but I do definitely think that something like NutScript is the way forward for more serious RP servers.
Yeah, I agree with that because I have tried to make myself some servers for Stavas API with Dark API, and it feels like too simple. Like it's just everything is just based on whitelists, and basically that's the most complex system, the whitelisting. Like, and there's like really nothing else except when you add add-ons, then you might get some complexity. But if you have more add-ons on the other hand, it makes it more messy, and that's what I think is problem.
And then it obviously takes attraction away from your server because it takes years to download. One thing that I'd just like to touch on, even with the benefits of NutScript, an example that you've kindly lent into, the whitelist system being probably the most complex and desirable feature of Dark RP. What we've actually managed to do with NutScript is something really, really useful. So usually with the whitelist system, you would have to call in an admin to whitelist a cadet, for example. But what we've managed to do with NutScript is we've managed to make a system where all people that are available to train which obviously will be allowed because I realize that this may present the counter argument, well, what if they aren't trustworthy? Which is why we make sure that everyone is trustworthy and the whole thing. If we give authority, we're going to have to give a reason for it. But let me get back to the point. So, say a sergeant comes along, trains a cadet, the cadet's trained. Usually you'd have to call an admin in. What we've got is we've got a really cool system where they can actually just do /train space then the person. That immediately changes their job and their name prefix. So when you join the server, all you have to do is put in what you want your nickname to be. So what we've also got to couple that training system is we've got a automatic whitelist system for every single job. So commanders and people that are authorized to do tryouts can then do the /invite command, which allows them to invite someone to their server, to the regiment, and what that does is they then get a pop-up and they can accept it, and then they just get instantly transferred into that regiment. No problems, no problems at all. It's a really useful system, and it will save a lot of admin time.
Yeah, I figured out like it's difficult for the admins as well in the beginning to learn all of the commands and even how to file list, because I remember when I played on your server when it existed, I tried to figure out with admin how to get someone file listed, and then some other admin came and then they said you have to type this, and it was very complex command, but it worked. And I think it's just like people have not used NutScript much, so they need to learn it to be able to use it and adapt to it. But I think NutScript is very good for this kind of game mode, which is a step higher level of complexity, RP, and planning from Dark RP.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely share those views. One of the really cool things about NutScript, obviously, as I've said, is the complexity. And now that Shane's back, what do you think? Because obviously you're a lot more involved in the whole coding process than me, because you're the head developer as well as the co-founder. What opportunities do NutScript like give us as a server? What can they actually do for us over Dark RP?
I mean, like with Dark RP, it's just your main F4 menu. That's like the main thing to switch jobs and that. With NutScript, we're using it more of a base instead of the actual game mode. So we're compiling our own code on top of NutScript to make it the best Star Wars RP game mode we can get, really. So NutScript just has a lot of less, let's say, like annoying features that you need to remove in order to make a serious RP game mode. So say like serious RP game modes don't need an F4 menu, so you gotta strip that out or something and then replace it with something instead of just having a base which doesn't have the F4 menu on default and then doing a code on top. It's much more easier, which NutScript provides for us. So
yeah, and like I noticed there is also inventory system and some other minor. Oh yeah, there was NPC if it's like gives ammo to you and you run out of ammo when you die, and then you actually have to like make sure you have enough money for things, for grenades and ammo, and that was extremely interesting because I have not seen any other server utilize the money system like that.
Yeah, so what we've basically done is I'm extremely proud of the work that we managed to do for Conquest. That kind of ties into the whole kind of more story-based aspect that we have, so, and the more realistic one as well. So as you say, we've got the vendors and things where you can walk in and you actually have to physically buy your ammo on the ship. You get given for training on the ship. But then that also ties into a much bigger resource system, which a lot of the times on other servers, you have fleet and things. They don't really have much to do because, like I said earlier, when it actually comes to strategizing, you don't get past the Venator. And when you get on the event, you get told to do by some magical floating person in the sky, which to me just doesn't make sense. Whereas here, the fleet actually have to manage and take inventory of the resources that we actually have. So, for example, we'll have, say we started on Kamino, which is what we did on the last Conquest, and then we went immediately to Naboo. what you would do is in that main assault, before you would stock up with resources, and that would be noted on some kind of document that the fleet would have. We want to revamp the whole system so it's a lot more easy and accessible to the wider server, but still. So say you have a set amount of resources. Say you have, I don't know, like 500 shots of ammo, 3 tanks. When you attack that next planet, that will have a set amount that comes with the planet that will let everyone know about, of resources that come from attacking it. So not only do you get this constant flow and continuity of actual resources, but you can gain them, and it means that fleet have to make legitimately good strategical decisions when choosing which planet they have to go to next in order to like properly equip the army. So for example, if we're low on resources but we need to get some more, we'll want to go for an easy victory, because obviously we won't have the resources to take on a more hard one. But if we want to do something quickly and we have more resources and more ambition, and we have the resources to try and take out a much more harder installation, then the fleet can make that decision and they can kind of go towards that option, because that will give us even more. So it's kind of like we've got this mini risk and reward system going on behind the scenes of the server, so it's more kind of out of the server experience.
And you have managed to make it like so that everyone is important in the mission. Like, if for example trooper fails to guard an area, for example, which has like, for example, important area where if the enemies can go in, then they can cause a lot of damage. So if a trooper fails in that, then like the mission can fail. And if like the NCO fails by giving appropriate orders to their troops, then the mission can also fail, because the troops go to stupid places, and then the mission fails. And also fleet can make the mission fail. So like everyone is important. I noticed like when like I was playing, I was supposed to guard like the entrance to the area where there's like vendors where you can get supplies from, and where the prisoners are, stuff like that. And like I think like that's what people want from servers, that they feel they are important and they can affect things like that.
Yeah. So what we also like to do is another thing that kind of complements that whole everyone is important thing. You won't just lose a battle because someone that's just logged in has been given an amazingly hard role. What we'll do is we've actually revamped the system from last time. So last time we had 2 types of regiment. We'd have the basic and we would have the elite. So how we've differentiated those on this server, you can do tryouts for the basic regiments, but then to join one of the elite regiments, you have to be picked by the commander of the elite regiment in order to actually join. So it's similar to the kind of traditional one elite regiment on the server that would usually be like Delta Squad, Omega Squad, something like that. But instead you have it for, I think about 7. I think we've got 7 elite regiments, maybe 6. I can't say right off the top of my head. But so what will happen then is the more vital roles that could definitely like wager on whether the battle is won or lost, it will be kind of, hopefully, according to the fleet, given out to those more elite personnel. Whereas the troopers and the things of the basic regiments will have not necessarily as vital as, like, if that person dies, then the whole mission's over. But they will still be very important because they will work in tandem with the elite regiments in order to accomplish a certain goal.
Like, that's also very good and important that the mission doesn't fail if one person dies, because usually people make like event where fleet gets kidnapped and then the entire ship goes to rescue them, and that doesn't make sense. But
no, that just wouldn't make sense at all. No,
because they can like choose a new fleet member from one of the fleet cadets, And also, unless it's Grand Admiral, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have enough information that would damage the Republic. But in light of all of this, what do you think makes a good server?
I think I'll let Shane answer that from a technical standpoint, and I'll give my 2 cents. So go on then, Shane.
Good server. I mean, I would say the player base is a pretty good, important thing about a good server, but also the custom part of it is also right nice, because if you could join a server, it's a lot of simple things. Get bored of it, especially on Star Wars RP when there's not events going on. It's not really not that fun to do when you're just walking around. So a lot of people have that problem. Go on a server, no events going on for like 2 hours, and you just like walk around on deck 2, you get bored, you leave. But we're trying to make it so there's always something to do. So you could like go in a sim, get your economy up, because it's an in-game economy. So then you could buy special weapons, get some ammo, whatever, ready for a planetary. So when the planetary comes, you're stocked out, you know what you're doing. You got good weapons, support role, all that stuff. But
oh, go on then, Shane. Sorry.
I don't know. You could go ahead.
All right.
You're very keen.
In my opinion, what makes a really good server, just as Shane said, is all the custom stuff. So there are exceptions to the rule where you'll have not necessarily things that you have to develop, but things that regiments will integrate. So say you have a really good commander that kind of does training every day. He makes sure that something's going on for all of his troops. Everyone in that regiment are most likely going to stay. If they like the commander, if they like what they're doing, then they will like it. So that's where the player base comes in. The problem is, if you don't have that base player base, you don't have those good commanders, you don't have anything that makes the whole thing go round, then your server's just going to die. It's just the endless cycle of the same walk RP over and over again. Oh, there's an event in an hour, stay on for that. We will do an event at 25 players. That's kind of what we're trying to stray away from. So with all these custom things and all the kind of deeper layers, because even when the thing that I really love about our server that we're still not 100% finished with, as we're obviously still in development, but the thing that I really like is the fact that you don't actually have to be on the server in order to experience it. So once we've got this galactic map that we are planning to make, which could be really cool, you can literally load it up in your Chrome browser or whatever private browser you want, and you can just do things outside of the server without being on it. I just find it amazing because we've got our forums are actually divided into 2 separate categories. We've got the in character and the out of character. The out of character is where you have your typical applications, things that you wouldn't necessarily want say Captain Rex to be saying, oh, did you check this part of the forums? But then the in character is where I think it gets personally really interesting, and it's my personal project to make sure that all kind of comes together and works. So we've got things like Republic History, which explains the lore of the server, which we're currently trying to change from the mainstream. We're trying to take what we have in the current canon and edit it so we can create good stories. Then you have things like clone profiles, like we're going to do some information pages with graphic design and things on like different individuals that have played a massive role in Republic history. So for example, one of the story points that we have is instead of being promoted from Captain to Captain Rex after being going through the Alpha 17 training, instead what happened on the Battle of Geonosis was completely different. Instead of it being a resounding Republic victory like it was in the movies and everything, there were actually a large portion, about 95% of the 1st Assault Division, that were completely shot down and killed. But still, Rex manages to pull through and use his superior tactics and knowledge in order to kind of go in and take an objective his entire division was supposed to, with just a small percentage of that division, which then gives story grounds for why he was so important in forming this new Republic strategy that is what we like to call Operation Conquest. So this whole element of the server where we have kind of background information and different things that you can do without actually being on the server is what makes it so fun and interesting, because even if there is like a certain time on the server where there's, say, I don't know, like 30 minutes where there's not really much to do, your commander's done enough training for today, you can just go on the forums and learn more about the whole backstory and things.
Yeah, the galactic map thing definitely like makes your server like stand out, because the point of all Star Wars RP servers is roleplay, and basically that galactic map thing like definitely adds in the roleplay, and also the other things you have mentioned. And about the player base, yes, bad owner affects so that the staff is bad, and bad staff affects so that the player base is bad, and a player base that is bad makes the server die. So you are correct, like the player base is the most important, because chain reaction goes like that. And to be honest, like I have not like seen anything like that you have mentioned. I can see your server becoming very successful, I hope, because it would be very sad if it didn't get much attention from all of that stuff. But I think it will, because it did get last time as well. And yeah, I think that's basically like sums it up. Like, thanks for the interview, and I hope we see you on the server.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm really excited for when it releases. We don't have any kind of definitive release date or anything at all. We're just kind of gonna try and take it slow, but we really hope to be cooperative with you and help you maybe create some content in the future for both of our benefits. I feel like it would be a really good alliance to have. It's been an absolute pleasure being interviewed by you, Grypho. The best to you, I suppose.